So I don't know if Larry David has trademarked this line, but I'm going to use it to describe LSU because the Tigers are sitting pretty good at the halfway point of the college football season. They're 5-1. They have a massive win at home against a top 10 Ole Miss team. They're starting to gain momentum, and it feels like the best is still ahead. But the next 2 weeks, road trips to Fayetteville, road trip to College Station, truly could define where they sit among the college football playoff hunt. But I told you, I believe the winner of last week's game down in Baton Rouge was going to be in the dozen dance. And here's the reason why. LSU is a cockroach. You got to make sure it's dead before you think it's out of the count. So let's go ahead and talk about it. What's going on, SEC Unfiltered? It's Cole Thompson here. Welcome on into your new home for all things SEC. So real quickly, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below, the ring notification. That way you don't miss a single episode. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. If you want the back and forth banner to go along with me, it's at Mr. Cole Thompson on Twitter and Instagram. Best way to keep up with me and to check out all of our great work. Make sure that you visit SECUnfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. Use the promo code SECU at RHOBACK.com for 20% off your very first purchase. Fall foliage is around the corner. You want to look good on game days? Do so. RHOBACK.com, promo code SECU. So what's the thing that we know about a cockroach? When you think that you've smacked it one time, it's never down. It's going to pick itself back up. It's going to find a second wind, and it's going to bother the crap out of you. So you got to take that shoe and just beat the living breaks off of it because it's never going to die until you see the blood and guts protrude all over your kitchen floor. That's what we know about a cockroach. They live through everything. They're the one insect that could see an atomic bomb go off, and they would be fine. That feels like LSU right now because if even when you think that you're comfortable, even when you think that you've done enough to kind of go ahead and pull away, no, you haven't. And last week's game, down in Baton Rouge, Tiger Stadium, Death Valley, in a nighttime atmosphere, that was the ultimate sign to say, yes, this is a cockroach team. Think about it for a minute. Down by 7 points on multiple occasions, yet still the offense against one of the best defenses in the SEC was able to capitalize, was able to make up for fundamental mistakes in the first half, was able to put themselves in position to score. Sometimes it came on a field goal. Look at the third quarter. They say they settled for a 41-yard Damian Ramos kick. Then they move it all the way down after being down by 7 once again, and it's 4th and 5, and Garrett Nussmeier, the Nuss Bus himself, is looking all across the field. What are we trying to do here on a game-capitalizing drive after already making play after play after play? I'll just go for the dink and dunk pass. Go set up the next play. Go set up the next opportunity for you to find the end zone. No, instead, we're going to go verts, go scream it down the field and try and sling it into the back of the end zone. How dare you, Brian Kelly? How dare you, Garrett Nussmeier? But that's the beauty of it. Connected. Aaron Anderson. People will call it a dumb play if it doesn't work. People will call you a genius if it does. Congratulations. You look like wizards. And then in overtime, you watch as Caden Davis kicks a 57-yard field goal and thinking, Ramos can't do that. They can't get that done. You're right. He didn't have to because Kyron Lacey found a way to be open in the back of the end zone for an easy 6 points. Game over, rush the field, and Tiger Stadium is hollering down in Baton Rouge on an October Saturday night. That's what makes LSU dangerous. They're never down and out of the count. Their defense is better than advertised. You can already tell simply by that one game, one performance against Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin's offense. Blake Baker and his entire staff were worth every single penny and probably deserve a little bit of a pay raise because the talent is nowhere near the same vicinity as what we see Georgia or at Texas, or even some bit at Texas A&M on the defensive line, Tennessee for that matter. You can argue that Kentucky or South Carolina has a better defensive line. But here's what you can't have. You can't have bad students and bad teachers. You can have good students and bad teachers, and the results are going to speak for themselves. You can have good students and average teachers, and the results are going to speak for themselves. But when you have okay students and elite teachers, like a Bo Davis, like a Blake Baker, like a Corey Raidman, results speak. And that's what you have right now down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. An overall solid unit that continues to get better day after day after day because they have the right teachers showing them the ropes. LSU is in such a great spot to be in the college football playoff if they win this weekend. Now, we got to throw that major caveat in there. Over the next 2 weeks, they're going to look to make history as one of 3 teams, to win back-to-back road games. 2019 LSU, 2021 Georgia. They do that. There's a little bit something in common with those 2 teams. Anybody know? Well, they did hoist up a national title, so I'm not saying anything yet down in the Bayou, but I'm just making sure you got the right coach, you got the right personnel. Brian Kelly is 13-0 in Tiger Stadium in night games. Brian Kelly is currently en route for another 10-win season down at LSU. Brian Kelly right now has an opportunity to take his team back to the college football playoff. And what's so interesting is that if you look at Brian Kelly's history, year 3 is where everything starts to pick up steam. Don't look now also, but LSU, they're not down and out of the count when it comes to the college football playoff or the SEC title game. Yeah, many people are going to say, well, what happens if they lose this weekend to, say, Arkansas, but they win out, and now they're 10-2? Will they be in the college football playoff? They would. I would not doubt that, because you get a win over Oklahoma, you get a win over Texas A&M, you get a win over Alabama, but they also would be in the SEC championship game. Oh, don't believe me? Well, they'd be sitting at 7-1. See, LSU has the blessing and the curse that is a non-conference loss. So the loss to USC does not look well for them if they're sitting at, say, 9-3, or if they're even 10-2 to be this 5 seed or the 6 seed in the playoff. But that also doesn't affect their record when it comes to making it down to Atlanta, because the top 2 teams will go play for an SEC title, which means the win-loss record in conference play carries a lot of weight. 7-1 with the only loss coming to Arkansas, but massive wins over Ole Miss, over Alabama, over Oklahoma, over Texas A&M. Not only does that benefit you, but it also bodes well for your strength of resume when it comes to the college football playoff. And you have a defense that's getting better by game. And you have an offense that knows how to capitalize on the passing attack deep downfield. And you have a run game that right now, I have no idea how it's not working. But still, there are players that when it does work, you see the fruits of your labor kind of capitalize. And that's the beauty of what LSU is sitting in right now. They feel like a team that could have that second wind, that next gusto, kind of pull themselves over the top. And the best part is, Garrett Nussmeier is only going to get better. Now, he could have some multi-interception games. He could have some miscues at times. He could have some moments that are blunderingly bad mistakes. But he's being protected. We talk about LSU's offensive line for being kind of underwhelming when it comes to the rushing offense. Garrett Nussmeier didn't hit the ground one time against the best pass rush in the SEC by sack totals and tackles for losses going into week 7. Not once. His jersey was clean. You could have eaten a steak dinner off it and then said, thank you, can I have another? Oh, and wipe your mouth with the napkin that was number 13's jersey. That's what you could have done. When you have an offensive line, when you have a quarterback, when you have a defense that's hitting its stride at the right time, you have a shot to make the college football playoff. And again, they're a cockroach. They're not down and out of the count. They win this weekend, they're going to be bowl eligible. No shocker there. I don't think anybody would be content and say that that was going to be the case. They win next weekend. Well, now they have yet another win on the road against a top 25 team and a win at home. And if they could redo it again, I promise you, you would see Brian Kelly open up the passing attack a little bit more against a USC, and they would be fine. And they would be undefeated. And now, instead of talking about LSU as one of the best teams in the SEC, we'd be talking about them as one of the best teams in college football, which very well they can be. They haven't maybe shown it just entirely yet, but they can be. Simply because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be. And that's where we are right now. You get 2 wins on the road. You come back home. You beat Alabama. At this point, it's very dangerous to do. But there's this thing called a permanent marker. And I have a list sitting right down here that has names listed on who I believe is a guarantee to make the college football playoff. There's one name on that list right now. It is Texas. If they win the next 3 games, LSU is going in permanent marker, because I don't see how they're dropping a matchup to Oklahoma. I don't see how they're dropping a game late in the regular season to Florida. I don't see how they're not going to be in Atlanta. And if you make it to Atlanta, congratulations. You also make it to the Dustin Dance. LSU is in a perfect situation right now. And like I said, cockroaches, you better make sure that when you go ahead and crush them, you see the guts. Because until you do, the guts is what's going to keep them prevailing all the way until the finish line. But let me know in the comment section down below, do you believe that LSU is a college football playoff team? Do you believe the best is still ahead for the Tigers? Are they going to be able to capitalize and hold their own for the next several games on the road? Like, rate, review, subscribe. Follow us on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Follow us at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. I'm Cole Thompson. Go Tigers, and peace.